Say, kids, what time is it?
It's kind of like watching TV, but, in your car.
104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay
There we
Stevens
go.
in the studio. It is Dark Side of the Stream, episode 137. This week was my pick. Actually, I stole it from Jay because I couldn't think of anything. But
yeah,
he was like, hey, check out this
we
documentary.
shared a
I was like,
pick.
okay, that's my pick for this week, which was the Boston bombings docuseries on Netflix. Manhunt, because, of course, this year being the 20th anniversary of the Boston Marathon bombing, which took place April 15th, 2013. I can't believe it's been that long.
It sounds like it shouldn't be called anniversary, though.
Or it's not 20, 10 years. I can't do math this morning.
Whoa.
Either way.
Shouldn't be called anniversary. What it should be like, because that's like a celebration. It shouldn't be celebrated.
No,
right?
but I mean, you would still say, because like Pearl Harbor, they say like the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, because it is an anniversary. Necessarily an anniversary to celebrate, though. But you are right about that. But the thing that first like out of my mind was like, it feels like this was a lot longer ago than 10 years. That's why it was so easy to say it was at the 20-year anniversary versus the 10-year anniversary.
I mean, I was.
Why do you think that is? Like watching it definitely felt more recent. But in my mind, like I kept thinking, God, wasn't this like right around the time I got out of high school? But no, it was way beyond that.
I just didn't know that it was how much went into it. Like I kind of, when it happened in real time, I guess I just kind of brushed over it, like whatever.
Well, they had the manhunt, and they had all that stuff going on with it, and we'll get into that stuff in a minute because you're not kidding, dude. Like, I mean, a ton of dudes involved.
Well, and we usually bash detectives for shoddy detective work. These guys went above and beyond figuring out who these guys were.
Yeah, and it all kind of started with the description, a guy who was one of the victims by the finish line who lost both of his legs. He was the first one to kind of let them know. He wrote down on a piece of paper, bag, I saw his face clearly. And based on that, they were able to go through security cameras because everything's on CCTV now, especially through Boston.
And
they watched these guys walk them in.
Well, you figure you're watching probably hundreds of people, and then the more of these that you watch, okay, it's definitely not that lady. You just kind of process them out, and then you're like, okay, it's down to these guys.
And this was, can you imagine how far it is now?
Oh,
the technology, like 10 years ago, you watch the stuff now and it's like present tense, but they're even more further along now with that stuff. Right? I can't even imagine how far they're
probably watching us right now.
They are probably watching us right now, just like you are. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 137 continues next on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave, Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, episode 137 this week, doing the Manhunt Boston bombings docuseries on Netflix. So the story really begins with two brothers. They were from originally Kazakhstan or Chechnya. I think they were Chechnya, Chechnya. They were forced out of there. Eventually, they made their way to the United States. They both, like, from the get-go, seem like pretty smart dudes.
Yeah, like one guy talented, was a real skilled boxer.
Yeah, one of them was
Olympic level boxer.
Yeah, like very, very driven.
Yeah. Someone haywire.
And the thing is, like, that's where fringe extremist groups love to recruit, is very on the fringe driven individuals. And that's kind of where the boxing brother got involved with Islamic extremism. And the crazy thing about this whole story, and I didn't know this, was that the FBI actually interviewed this kid back in 2011, 2 years before this went down.
So here's where maybe there was some shoddy work in the beginning.
Well, that's the tough thing.
Right? There was a murder of one of his homies or something.
Yeah, there was, and his mom thought maybe something was going on, and so the FBI comes in, but then after their investigation, they said, we haven't found anything that could lead us to believe he's tied or involved with any kind of extremist terrorist groups. So the point of that is that's the tough thing I think that law enforcement has to deal with, whether it's a situation like this or a domestic abuse situation or a gun situation. We have laws, and those are the laws. Yeah. You have the right to carry. If you think that guy's crazy, if they can't prove it, there's nothing you can do about it. If you have a person that's involved in a domestic situation that's claiming their partner is stalking them and coming after them, you can only do so much, an ex parte. and then eventually they will do what they want to do, because there is only so much you can do. In the case with these guys, I don't really think the FBI did anything wrong, because they only did what they could do, right? Like, you can't just look at someone and say, well, Jay obviously is on the fringe because all he's looking at is UFO websites, and so he's crazy. He wears aluminum foil hats. Well, yeah, he reads into that stuff, but that's not really, like, you're not walking around thinking you're being bugged all the time. We joke about it, but the same thing, like, you can only do so much because that's the law.
Yeah.
But that, to me, was one of the craziest things about this. It's like the sharpshooter in Waco, who claimed to, like, he could have just that one shot, it ended it all right then and there, right? Well, maybe he made that up or not, but on record, at first the FBI wasn't like, they didn't come out and say, oh yeah, we talked to him. But then later on, after his mother talked to their, said, yeah, no, they actually did. But at one point, the FBI even went as far as to ask the FSB, which is the equivalent of the Russian FBI, for information. But of course, they didn't give them any. So that is what it is. We'll get to what actually happened on that day in April in 2013. Next, Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio. Dark Side of the Stream, discussing the Manhunt Boston bombings docuseries on Netflix this week. So, of course, bombing happened April 15th, 2013. After that went down, there were a lot of victims, obviously, and then the manhunt would ensue. And they again, after the tip from one of the victims, who basically just said, bag, I got a clear look at his face, they were able to go back through CCTV quickly. They were able to track the brothers. They knew exactly who they were looking for. And then the search was on.
Yes. And then it got crazy.
You made mention of the law agencies involved in this thing. And there were a lot. Boston PD.
Yeah.
Boston University PD, because it was by the university. MIT Police Department, again, because it was down there. Watertown Police Department, Cambridge Police Department, Massachusetts-based Transport Authority Police, because, of course, you got all the water down there. State Police in Massachusetts, the FBI, ATF, HSI, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, because now we're dealing with some people that are here from visas. You've got the Marshal Service, and you got the DSS, which is the Diplomatic Security Service, because now it's a government issue. Of course, you got Federal Military National Guard in Massachusetts, the Fire Department, EMS in Boston, AMR, FAS, and EAS Care Ambulance Service, all involved in this thing.
And then you got that Asian kid who gets his car jacked by them. Props to that guy.
Can you imagine?
Props to that guy.
Like, that part too, to me, was also insane.
That was my highlight of the whole thing.
Because we living in this part of the world, when things take over town, you get the Route 66 festival, you're involved in, but you kind of, if you don't want to go down there, you kind of stay out of it. Right. Well, when the Boston Marathon and things like this happen in major cities, it literally shuts the entire city down. Yeah. Ned Reynolds tells a story about the one time he was close to see the Beatles. He was stationed in Jersey, and they were playing in the late 60s in the area. And he was like a carrier for the U.S. Navy. He had to walk a block. But since where he was going was inside the rope corridor of where they shut down the city for a Beatles concert, he had to go around. It took him almost 2 hours to get back and go deliver one letter that normally would take 10 minutes. He's still mad about that. So, point being is, you get this kid, right, who's already probably angry that his city's screwed up, because I don't think he was trying to go down to the bombing.
To get gas.
He's legit just doing his thing.
Got his new BMW. He's trying to get some gas.
And then all of a sudden, here comes two dudes and they take your car. God, that would be.
But they took him with them and said, dude, props to that kid, man,
for holding it together.
He's also cool under pressure.
He's also, it was super cool under pressure, but he's also lucky to be alive. Because these dudes were ready to go. I mean, at least the older brother was ready to go as far as he needed to go. And he obviously did, because it took his life. You think, because you can see where, when you watch the story, when you watch this thing, the seeds of this started with him, the older brother.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you think his little brother was just kind of like, I'm going to follow him just no matter what?
Ride. Yeah. Yeah,
it sucks, man.
So just along for the ride. It's my brother. Okay,
I got to ride or die for my brother, and that's just what it is.
I'll help you build these bombs. throw him at the cops.
Yeah, well, he's paying for it with his life
The
currently.
shootout in the street was insane,
dude. The whole that whole thing. And like I said,
yeah, like a war zone.
The fact that they were ready, and I guess they were also planning on going back down to Times Square and doing it again in New York. So, had they been able to succeed and get away, that was where they were going next. So he was just going to keep going as far as he could. And obviously he didn't go that far because, like you mentioned, the shootout happened, which was also just as crazy as everything that happened. But it just goes to show you, and I think that's part of what this documentary showed me, was that how close we are, in fact, to just total chaos all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Anywhere, any place, anytime. All it takes is one or two just people to just take it this far. And it doesn't matter what kind of training you have or lack thereof. If you've got the means, you can get it done. And these kids did. Like I said, look at all those agencies involved in trying to track them down, and look how far they made it.
They made it far, yeah.
Very far. And that's a scary thing that we have to live with every single day in a free country. We'll discuss our reviews of this documentary next. Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave. 104.7 The Cave. Mike the Intern, Jay Stevens back in the studio one more time to discuss Manhunt Boston bombings on Netflix, our 137th episode of Dark Side of the Stream. I would give this probably 4 solid Life Without Paroles reviews on this one.
3.5. Yeah, 3.5.
There were certain things about it that I didn't, because again, when you're living in this in real time, like you mentioned, remember it happening.
Yeah.
I just remember like the tickers of the manhunt. That's really like, I remember the bombing. I remember that thing
much
happened.
Of this at all.
I remember the manhunt.
It sure was crazy.
But there was a lot of how you got to give it to law enforcement for putting the squash down on this relatively quick.
Incredible.
When they had nothing to go on. I mean, a bomb went off, and how fast they were able to figure it out. That's incredible. But make no mistake, it's even worse now. You think you're alone and they're not watching you every time you go out in public. Guess what? You're being watched. Don't matter where, doesn't matter when, and they can do it real quick. So mind your P's and Q's, man.
Seeing me naked a lot.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the first. So next week is Jay's pick for Dark Side of the Stream. What are we watching?
We're going to the jungle. We're going to watch Chimp Empire on Netflix.
Chimp Empire. All right. So we're going to learn something
about the chimp culture.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm a big fan of Planet of the Apes. Are they going to take over?
You're going to like it.
All right, cool.
You're going to like it.
Well, hopefully I can learn something when our ape overlords take over in a few years. I won't be
we'll be on the good list.
I'll be on the good list.
Hey, these guys talked about
They'll give me a good job. They'll just let me keep my job in radio.
Yes.
As always, you can stream this online.
We'll get one monkey guy to come in as our producer.
The files are in the computer. Stream it online, 1047thecave.com as a podcast. Watch us do it live on Facebook every Thursday at 9 a.m. or listen to it on Jay's show at 6 p.m. or my show at 9 a.m. You can watch us on YouTube live as well. I'm Mike the Intern. This is Jay Stevens reminding you
we watch documentaries
movies, so you don't have to. It's
to.
Dark Side of the Stream on 104.7 The Cave.